coming up on The Source.
I also believe mass shootings are wrong and it shouldn't happen, but we have to look at who's doing them and why.
Because you're a danger.
I've been at rallies to talk about gun reform, and the opposition has been there with hundreds of people carrying their weapons outside of Lake Hall. But the one black man gets stopped by Capitol Police. So they got to be the police, they got to be the parent, they got to be the teacher. But yet, I don't trust you enough to pick the curriculum. I don't trust you enough to teach about Rosa Parks.
And water has already been impacting people, the cost of it, because beforehand in the city, as I remember when I first started paying water, it was every 3 months.
Right, I remember.
Right? And let's say my bill was $100 every 3 months. When they switched to the monthly, now my bill is $100 every month.
Wow.
So I went from $100 to $300 now in a quarter period in paying for water.
We're not here to hate. We're here. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Sinead Darby.
And welcome to The Source. I do apologize for not being with you all last week, but y'all did a phenomenal job, which means I'm not really needed. But I'm very grateful that y'all allowed me to come back and be a part of this show with y'all today.
I wouldn't say that either.
But listen, I want to get into it because we got so much stuff going on today, and I want to really get into a lot. This gun violence in America and in our community is really, really, really stressful. We're going to talk about Nashville, but I want to start by talking about in Newcastle County where there was some teens who tried to basically, according to the paper, just shoot some county cops and they didn't catch him till the next day, but they tried to shoot him, and it's just too much violence. Everybody got a gun. What is going on with this violence?
Yeah, I'll say this, right? It's definitely out of control here in America across the board. We're seeing violence on the rise. We've had more mass shootings than we have had days here so far this year. When it comes to what happened out Newcastle, I'm grateful no one was injured.
Right.
But it's unacceptable, right? I know I talk about police brutality all the time, but at the end of the day, I don't want to see anyone get hurt.
Absolutely.
Right? And firing, at officers, it's nothing to justify that, right? And I know everyone's hopped up right now and they're trying to, defend different sides of it. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be shooting at the cops.
Yeah. I mean,
Not anybody.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Right,
And that's across the board. But the problem is not the shooting. The problem is the access to guns.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. And I'm trying to figure out now. But while we do have problems with police brutality, but the access to guns to the level where some teenagers feel very comfortable with just shooting at cops, and it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think there is a problem with access to guns. I also think it's a cultural problem.
Okay.
Right? So I think there's other countries that have access to guns in the same way we do, but you don't see mass shootings at the same height. Who are doing the mass shootings? They're mainly white men, right? So we have to look at the root cause too. Okay, let's do stricter gun laws, but also look at the culture of who's doing these shootings. When we do shootings, they look at us.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Who raised them?
Yeah.
Right? They start looking at the social and the cultural impact of what happened. Let's start looking at white men and how they're raised and the social, cultural impact of why are they shooting up schools like this?
Yeah.
Right? So, I think it's a two-way conversation. I don't think, for me, it's not a one-way conversation, because I actually believe that we should have tighter gun laws, but I also believe in people's rights to carry. I also believe mass shootings are wrong and it shouldn't happen, but we have to look at who's doing them and why. Just the same way when any other violence happen, they look at Black people and they start critiquing us about how we raise our kids, our culture. Is it the rock music they're listening to? I don't know, but someone needs to figure out why these mass shootings are happening and why it's mainly white men doing it.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Well, I just to add on to that, every time we see a shooting like this happens, the first thing that the media goes into and talks to the family, oh, the kid was bullied, the kid was going through stuff at home.
For white people.
Black kids get bullied a lot.
A whole lot.
We have to
We break
deal.
on each other hard. Like,
Listen, at the lunch table, looking boy, like there was jokes and everything, and we joke amongst ourselves, right? But then also we have to deal with the internalized systems of racism, both in our schools, outside of our schools, going into the grocery store, going into the corner store. We deal with that every day, right? And you don't see us going into schools and committing these violent acts. Now, I will say this. I'm not saying that all mass shootings are committed by the same people, but whenever it's a Black person, a person of a person of color, period, a person of a non-Christian religion, that's when it becomes, oh well, it's the whole culture that they're a part of,
Right.
is causing this.
Yeah.
But yet you see Stony Douglas, you see the Buffalo shooting, you see Uvalde, you see all these other places, right? Oh, it was a lone wolf. Oh, he had mental health issues. Okay, that's true. He may have mental health issues. But it doesn't justify the fact that right now in America, if you are a white man, it is easier for you to not only get a gun, but to walk down the street open carry with one. Because even though we live in an open carry state, I guarantee you, if I walk past a cop with a gun on my hip,
Yeah.
I'm getting stopped. You want to know why I know that? Because I've seen it happen here in Delaware.
Right. Yeah.
Not just in Wilmington and in Newcastle County, down at the beach, in Dover.
Because you're a danger.
I've been at rallies to talk about gun reform, and the opposition has been there with hundreds of people carrying their weapons outside of Legg Hall. But the one Black man gets stopped by Capitol Police.
It's really sad. But see, what happens now, the trajectory have turned a little bit because, well, first I want to talk about even our new congressman who's now down in Washington, who snapped on a Republican, but we'll get there in a minute. But I really want to look at this situation here. You have the shift a woman, okay? She goes into the Nashville school. It's a Christian conservative school who really, it kind of opens up another whole door, because those of us, not y'all, but me, I said, if I can just keep my child in a private school,
they'll be okay.
He's safe.
Yep.
The doors were locked. This girl went in, and she's a former student, as I understand it, and she shot through and still kills 3 children and 3 adults. We're not safe anywhere.
You're not safe, and I think it's connected. I think that they said she was trans too.
Right. And I was going to go there after we talk about the behavior.
Okay, I'm about to say. So I think maybe, I don't know, because Christianity could be very hard on the LGBT.
That's what she said.
Like, I don't know what the connection is, but I thought
people are saying it. When I say people, I'm not talking about in general. Most of our people who are writing on it, they put a lot of emphasis on her being trans. They put a lot of emphasis on the pronouns. But it lends to what you said. Why are we so busy worrying about what a person is when we're not dealing with the real issue? The real issue is gun violence, the access to guns. This girl had an issue with that school. Now, I'm not going to talk as if I have authority. She is a former student, and that and conservative Christianism, homosexuality is not accepted.
Right.
So they could have bullied her.
Well, here's the thing. There's other students who went to school with her who said the school was accepting of that. They can say that. But here, this is what I want to say. I don't care. I don't care what she was. Okay. Right? I don't like the fact that right now they're trying to humanize a murderer.
Yeah.
But yet these same media outlets, when a black man like George Floyd gets killed, they bring up his record. But when this young lady goes into the school and kills all these people, then they decide, hey, let's talk about what type of style she had. She loved
Well, that's what
wearing
Shemaine was
90s
talking about. Right.
styles.
Yeah.
She was quirky and everything. I don't care.
Yeah. Right.
I don't care. Here's at the end of the day, and there's, it's not recorded, but there was people on Zoom with the principal or the headmaster of the school. I forget the official title. She heard the first shots, and instead of ducking or anything, she just got up and ran towards the shooter. And she was one of the people. She was 51 years old who was killed.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
This coward went into a school, killed 3 adults, 61, and 60, and 3 innocent children. 3 9-year-olds.
Yeah, 3 9-year-olds. I have an 8-year-old,
That
and she
hurts.
goes to a private
That hurts.
school.
Yeah.
So,
And you don't know how much I'm hugging my daughter more now.
yeah.
Every morning before I leave out of the house, and she's like, "Daddy, I have to," because you never know. I don't want to ever think like that. But can I just go a little bit further with this before we move to the next thing? This I want to say hats off to Nashville Police Department.
Yes, I saw the
And to the mayor, if you're watching, or your people, a plan will help. Now, yes, 6 people still were murdered. But when you watch those cameras and see how fast they released them, see, when you got nothing to hide, you just release stuff. I mean, they got out of the car being shot at going towards the bullets. They knew exactly what to do. Even the school knew what to do. Where is our emergency plan?
Well, I'll say this. A lot of schools now, this is the generation lockdown. They go through these drills.
We do it. Right.
These kids, Uvalde went through these same drills.
Right.
But when it came time for the officers to step up and do their job, they did their job.
So in Delaware, Antonio, what's the school?
And Alfonso Alonso, Academia Alfonso Alonso.
Yeah, they called the police and it took them 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was a joke. It happened here in Delaware.
83 minutes. They called the state police. State police sent one person. And this speaks to a lot of issues we have here. One, the fact that the call was in Newcastle County but was bounced to a Kent County operator. 2, that the officer who responded gaslit the principal and other staffers to the fact that they released everyone without actually checking the entire building. 2, they did catch the person who ended up being a former student who was playing a prank, but still, until you know it is a prank, which they did not know until 3 days later, you should treat it as if it's a serious threat. Now, then after that, the police decide they're going to have a town hall to explain themselves, go in there, talk about how they know a lot of the people are brown, so therefore they don't know if everyone's legal. Then also tells them that they can't talk about Uvalde. This is the Delaware State Police, the same state police that decided to harass and arrest teenagers, right? The same police that we've been dealing with over and over again. But again, I sound crazy for continuing to bring it up to say that it's an unequal system for black and brown people and white people here in the state of Delaware. We're dealing with the state police. I don't care if you put a black man over charge of them, or now he's the secretary of Homeland Security, which is over top of the person who's over top of the state police. There is a systemic problem with our state police, with our county police, and definitely with the Wilmington police. But yet, we have people down in Dover who still haven't done anything.
Yeah, and that's concerning because it's something. My kids go to school here in Delaware, and if there were to be a threat or a shooter in there, I would be scared. And literally, I got that email yesterday. My daughter goes to Cab Calloway, and they sent me a message saying that all students and staff safety is our top priority. I want to share that we're just made aware of a threatening social media post mentioning Cab Calloway School of the Arts. Right, so I called my daughter like, I'll come get you right now, like. Yeah. But they're saying that they were safe and they think it's a prank and things like that. But if the state police were to pull up and they did the same thing and it took them 83 minutes to get there, I would be upset as a parent. And if
But not a cab. They wouldn't take that long at cab.
Well, yeah, because you got your children with the other folks.
Well, I
on a
understand.
cab.
I understand that, but this is
The response should be the same whether it's at cab or
Or
anywhere
at
else.
another school. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. The response should be the same.
I would ask that you please be mindful of those parents who are watching us today. Please be mindful of having your own plan as well. I put one in together for my daughter and my wife and I and somebody else. I don't want to get into what our plan is, but it is very clear that if something was to go wrong, we want to be within 3 minutes of getting there, because sometimes waiting, I would rather die than to know that my child was harmed, killed, or whatever, and who could have helped her chose not to have a plan to make it happen. So I don't even want to think about that. So I want to move on. But I just want to say hats off to Nashville Police Department, who did a phenomenal job. Hats off to the school that they're in Nashville, because they were able to have the keys and everything ready, showing where it needed to be happen. Hats off to the folks who decided to share all of the information that needed to be shared, but it still does not take away from those loved ones who lost their loved ones during this time. And I'm hurt. This whole gun violence piece is just too much going on. We have to figure it out. We got to figure out in Delaware. Let's be an example. Biden's home state. Let's ban assault weapons. That you have I think, how long did they say it took them to get there?
I can't remember.
14 minutes, I think, in total, before the person was killed. If you had a handgun, it would have took much longer for them to kill that many people.
So, just speaking to policing reform here in gun reform here in Delaware, and it's been an ongoing thing for a long time. Shout out to Moms Demand Action. Shout out to the Coalition to End Gun Violence, Delaware Coalition to End Gun Violence. Right now, they are working on a few more bills. We have red flag laws here. We have straw purchasing laws here. They recently passed a high capacity magazine ban, and now they're working on a permit to purchase, right? So now it adds an additional layer of training and licensing in order to just purchase a firearm here in Delaware. And that's probably the major bill that they are working on.
But as much as I want to support that, and I want it, okay, but those rules and bills are not for everybody, only for the black folks. I remember when I was going through to get my license to conceal, I watched certain things, and I'm gonna follow the law, because I know that people want me not to follow the law so they can get me. But it's not really for other people. People got uncles and cousins and friends who look out for them. This girl in Nashville had issues.
Yeah.
And they say there was no red flag laws. But if she got issues, why was she able to get that many guns? We need to ban assault weapons. We need to ban it. Let me move a little bit further, and we're definitely praying for those families who have lost their loved ones.
Do we have time to show the video of Jamal Bowman?
Yeah. Matter of fact, we're gonna do that real fast, and then we're gonna come back and just talk about that. We'll be right back.
Talking about gun violence.
In a school that allows teachers to carry.
Carry guns? You think more guns lead to more death?
Would you co-sponsor?
More guns lead to more death.
Would you co-sponsor?
Look at the data. You're not looking at any data. You're carrying the water for the gun lobby.
No.
Look at the data. More guns lead to more deaths.
For the kids.
Guns, states that have open carry laws have more deaths.
In every school that
States
allows
that
carry,
have open
there's
carry
never been a
laws
shooting.
have more deaths.
There's never been a shooting.
Are you listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah, calm down.
Calm down. Children are dying.
I know. I've got
9-year-old children.
I've got
Because
a
the
solution.
solution is not arming teachers.
That's
Have you ever
worked
worked in
in
a
every
school?
school. In
Have
every
you ever
school
worked in a
that's
school?
In every-
Have you ever worked in a school? Have you ever worked in a school? It's a yes or no question. Have you ever worked in a school? You will not answer my question. Don't stop and talk to me. Okay, I'll bring it down a notch.
All right.
Have you ever worked in the school?
I've got a bill to repeal.
I have worked in the school for 20 years. I was a teacher. I was speaking before you came and interrupted me. I worked in the school for 20 years. I worked in the school 20 years. I was a teacher. Talking about gun violence.
See, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Jamal is a former principal
Yeah.
at a school up in New York. He understands what was going through the mind of the administrators there, what was probably going through the mind of the students, and the fact that these politicians and Massey, Thomas Massey, the guy you see him encountering with, is the congressman who represents that area, the same congressman who sent out a Christmas card with his entire family, including his little kids, holding guns to everyone, encouraging more gun ownership. So I just think Jamal just had enough with the thoughts and prayers of it, right? And said,
Yeah.
look, sometimes you do have to pray, but those prayers must be met with action. And if you're not willing to do the action, then you shouldn't be in the highest body in the land.
Well, you know, he's a little hypocrite anyway. The
Massey.
Massey, the congressman from there,
Mhm.
because he was the one who was really against any kind of hate speech and hate, this, that, and the other. And now all of a sudden he's trying to curtail it a little bit better, but he's still not giving into it. So he's full of it. He's a
Mhm.
hypocrite like some others.
Yeah, the biggest thing in the video, he tried to argue and say teachers need to be armed. Teachers need to be armed. Y'all don't even trust them in selecting books.
Yep.
And the Republicans will ban teachers from teaching kids from certain books, but you trust them with a handgun?
But how could a handgun, catch this, how can a handgun stop a person who has an assault rifle?
Right.
As soon as
It's
they go
no
to aim,
comparison.
there's no comparison.
So here's the thing: you want teachers to be able to teach the class,
Yeah.
control high number of kids in a class, right? The classes are over capacity already, right? You got to control all the kids there, handle all that by yourself. They took out teacher assisting, they took out the extra time, they're paying you less. Now you also have to get certified and trained in firearms, right? Now you have to be a better shooter than potentially someone who's coming in trained or
See
something
how
like
silly
that.
it sounds.
So so they got to be the police, they got to be the parent, they got to be the teacher, but yet I don't trust you enough to pick the curriculum.
Yeah.
I don't trust you enough to teach about Rosa Parks or Dr. King.
Yeah, it's that mindset, and I don't know what has gotten into the Republican Party, but the mindset is way with the
I could
people.
tell you what got into them.
Maybe-
They are upset that a black man became president of the United States, and then after they got their good old boy in there, then a black Indian woman became the vice president.
Oh, wow.
And there's been more black women appointed to the courts, and there's been a push on diversity throughout this nation, especially after 2020. That's why after the train derailments, what did you see all the statements come out? This is because of diversity.
Yeah, wow.
What?
You say that on my show? We're
What?
not supposed to talk like that. We are professionals.
This is about diversity. Ron DeSantis going around the nation talking about woke comes to Florida to die.
Woke comes to
Well,
Florida.
guess what he means by woke? He means black people.
Yes.
Because black people are being systematically executed in Florida. Their rights are being taken away, and he is loving every step of it.
Yeah, but I got something to talk about him.
I know you do.
I got something about him later, and him and the mayor, they got some things in common. But I want to just, because we get ready to go to another break. But before we do, I do want to switch over just for a second, because during Shanae's piece, she talked a little bit about the mayor's budget, and I know that I don't want to be insensitive, but it seems like, again, Kobe, and I was directing this directly to you, it appears that we have a Democratic paper holding mayor with a strong Republican agenda. I understand that when you get the people who voted you in, you need to give them something, but it seems like he's giving them everything. And yet, if you ever want, for those of you who are watching this, if you ever want to see the difference between a Democrat philosophy politician and a Republican philosophy politician, look at the policies that they push. Look at Matt Myers, for example. Matt Myers, who's the county exec, he put his budget out there. Decrease, less, making sure that the poor is taken care of. Look at the mayor's budget. Get them all out of the city of Wilmington. Continue to up their raise. Who cares if the poor have a place to live? Who cares? And that's why, for those of you who watch us every week, we don't have an outlet. This is one of the outlets you have where it's not controlled, bought, or bossed. And I think that's why they keep coming after me, because if you can shut him up, then we can have our full agenda without it being exposed. And for those city council persons who constantly vote in favor of everything he says, you are following up a Republican agenda as well. And I told Sister Shanae, I said, don't worry about it, Sister Shanae, because she was a little discouraged one time on one of the shows a couple of weeks ago, because she couldn't believe that her counterparts who could mentor her and make her a stronger council person, they're flocking and falling down to whatever the mayor says. I said, listen, your day will come. Patience. And for those of you who trying to stop everything I'm doing, Hanifa, Shabazz, for those of you trying to stop everything I'm doing, my day gonna come. and it's going to come real quickly because we're not stupid. But let's go back to this one thing because I know we're out of time. What's up with the county exec?
Yeah, so
Decreases.
it's not a decrease, right? The property taxes are staying the same, the water's staying the same. But he is offering a 5% tax credit for county residential property owners.
I understand.
Not commercial, not the business.
Say
Residential.
that, and please pay attention to what he said,
Residential.
because some people want to do commercial
Yes.
Give them
and
breaks
way
and
with
incentives.
residential. This is what Shanae was talking about in her piece.
This is the exact opposite of what Mayor Pazicki's doing.
Yes.
He's giving a break to the developers. Matt Myers is giving a break to the everyday people who are already struggling, right? And even with inflation, right? The county has over $150 million in the tax reserves, and he's pulling money out of that in order to do this because he understands individuals need relief. Now, the average property tax for a unincorporated county resident is about $530. This is 5% of that. So
you called it a 5% what? What is it?
Tax credit.
5% tax credit.
Yes. So again, the overall operating budget is a $331 million budget this year. It's 6% higher than last year. And again, they're investing more in public safety, affordable housing, libraries, and parks. Again, everyone knows library and parks are critical for the health of the community. And then again, we are in a affordable housing crisis. So understanding that we need more housing units here in the state and more stability is critical. Now, Matt also announced that he's giving $200,000 more to the fire service to help study and understand the root causes of the decrease of volunteer firefighters, but also increases the compensation for paramedics, police officers, and sewer workers to help retain the workers who are in the county. And again, he's dedicating $2.5 million to preservation efforts. We've partnered with him to bring a new way here to the Newport to connect Newport with Wilmington. It could be a bike path, it could be a walking path. Again, it's just healthy living, and this is all a part of NCC 2050. So again, he is doing great things. And then again, on top of everything, a new $24 million Appoquinimink library, right?
Excellent.
We saw what he did in Middletown. We saw what he did in Newcastle on Route 9. These libraries are beautiful. They're being well used. I know the Apple area is really growing. The MO2 area is really growing. So this is going to be definitely needed.
I've had many fights with Matt, but Matt and I have never publicly had a fight. You know why? Because we understand that we can disagree on something, but not become disagreeable. I just wish this mayor administration would stop holding these grudges. It seems like I'm a little wounded, but I'm not.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's all right.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, what's going on with Shanae's Corner today, or Shanae's Scoop, shall I say?
Yeah, so I have a few things today. I did a visit to Teams. Teams is Together Everyone Achieves More. It is a substance abuse program.
Okay.
And they've been in Wilmington for about the last 2 years. And they've been doing a lot of work over the east side and in North Market Street area. So if you go to North Market Street in my district, you'll see a lot of people outside, all hanging out at the benches, and a lot of them are dealing with substance abuse issues, mental health issues. And this team, they've been using their transportation vans to pick people up and bring them to services. So they have outpatient groups, relapse prevention, case management, group therapy, individual therapy. So they're offering a lot of services. And, we're faced with the opioid crisis right now, which is a public health emergency. You have fentanyl being laced into marijuana, like all of these things happening. And it's just, I was excited to see that this program is happening and they're expanding. They got a bigger building. They still have the building on North Market Street, but they're looking to expand some of the things. So we had conversations and about what can they do, and we talked about like them doing like partner with the city for a community response team that the city really doesn't want to be able to address like quality of life issues. We even talked about transportation to the Hope Center. A lot of homeless people who are unhoused, are finding issues with getting to the Hope Center. The Hope Center doesn't even have a bus hub.
Wow.
Right, so they have to get dropped off and walk a long distance just to get there. And the Hope Center also has a shuttle, but the shuttle only runs certain times, certain days, right? So trying to fill a need in the gaps, or even in other cities, they're doing really cool things with like portable showers,
Yes, sir.
washer and dryers, and toilets. Like, how do we use teams and provide support to them so they can expand out those services? And most,
Well,
yeah.
have they had a conversation with the city?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
know. And that's something that I'm working with them on
Okay.
now, to try to get them plugged into certain things, because they just been doing this from the muscle, like just do their own financing, own community stuff that
Right.
they wanted to do.
Well, I'm not too sure if this administration would even want to do anything for people who are addicted and people who are poor, but that is an excellent service.
Mhm.
And I do, when I ride through that area, I do see people there. So what in Market is that about?
About 22nd and Market.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a van that sits there, and they have a building. It's not really labeled, because I was like,
Right.
I didn't even realize y'all were there.
Right.
But I remember seeing the van a few times there, but that's what they're doing. So they're trying to expand their services for the whole city of Wilmington to deal with
Mhm.
a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. And as we're trying to build up North Market Street, I'm not looking to build it up and push people out,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or say, I just want it to look good. Let's get these people out of here. But no, how do we actually provide services?
That's the key.
Right?
That's the key.
And I think that's what happened in other parts of the city, is where you have, they want the neighborhood to look better, so they kick the people out, and there's no true services. So they got rid of, there's tent cities that have been destroyed. And where do they put those homeless people, those people who are unhoused? Nowhere. They just went to another tent city, right? So it's not really solving the issue. It's just making that neighborhood look better to the people who live there, to make them feel more comfortable.
Yeah, shame on us that when we have gotten to a place where we care less about those who are less fortunate than we are. Shame on us when we as a city, I cannot speak to whether or not they've tried to reach out to the administration, but one of the good things is that you being a part of the city council, you can bring and shed light, and even bringing it to the show today.
Right.
They need to be able to be heard, and I hope you give me a contact person
Yes.
to be able to communicate with and put them on the Coffee with Curry show, because I think this type of service, people don't pay attention to nonprofits. They look at nonprofits as being a waste of time, money, and
Right.
effort. But this type of service is what the city should be providing.
Yes.
I agree with you. Let's not kick everybody out. Let's find ways to get services so they can do better and become better.
Yep. Yep.
No, so I kind of agree with that. And that's an excellent program.
Yeah, and I also think of the other day I was at the Fees and Fines Town Hall, and I met Miss Stacy Henry.
Okay.
And she's really focused on the Northeast and environmental issues. So, you know, we had a natural disaster with Ida,
Yeah.
and it rained out and flooded
Yeah.
the Governor Prince down in that area, Riverside area back there. And she has been advocating and asking for the city and the state to come up with a plan, so that if this happens again, how do we make sure people are connected and have resources,
Right,
diapers, wipes, formula, food, clothes? Like, they had nowhere to go.
I
Right?
remember.
They had
Yeah.
like they had to scatter around. The PAL Center opened up their doors to people, and I think Hicks Anderson did too.
They did.
Yep, I
But
think it
look how
was,
far away it
yeah.
was in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
far away. So it's kind of like, how do we we can't really prevent it, right? Maybe
Right.
we can. We can mitigate and figure out environmental ways to prevent flooding to stop happening down there. But if it happens again, what do we do?
Right.
Are we
Without a
gonna be in the
plan.
same in the situation,
Yeah.
right? So like,
That's not at the riverfront. So when things are not at the
Yeah.
riverfront, it's not a
It's not the
priority.
riverfront, so it's not priority. But I did reach out after speaking to her, because it's a lot of issues, and I wasn't thinking about it.
Okay.
But when Miss Henry was talking about it, I reached out to the city to say, did we come up with a plan to what to do when Northeast gets flooded again? What's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Or to mitigate it or stop it from happening? I don't know
Right.
what that entails. Some probably engineers coming in to figure out for that not to happen again. But do we have a plan,
Wow.
right? So that's something that I'm really looking into with the administration, to see if there is a plan and how do we get a plan and how do we support her efforts. But one thing she said, if they don't do it for us, we got to do it for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
I
So
love that
she's
spirit.
looking to build a resilience hub at the Powell Center. So there's going to be a meeting on, I think the date will be on April 1st, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then April 29th again from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And they're going to give out free resilience kits for the first 25 participants. It's going to be at the Powell Center. And the group is called Northeast Rising.
Okay.
Focused on climate change and weather disasters happening here in the city of Wilmington. So I think she'll be a great resource and asset. And we have to talk about that. Environmental injustice is real.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Black and brown and poor communities,
Yes. So,
they're not addressed.
right.
So yeah, so that's that. And then I know we're entered into budget season
Oh, wow.
with city council. And it has been an interesting process. We've been talking about the budget since like November, December. We finally got a few weeks ago a synopsis, a summary of some of the changes or things that the mayor administration wants to implement. And they talk a lot about revenue loss and trying to make up for it. So it's going to be a lot of increases that we're going to see happen or that's being proposed because it's not even like what he says is end all be all. It could be compromised back and forth between city council and the mayor administration.
Excuse me? Maybe I know
Yeah.
you're on the roll and you're doing a very good job being on the roll. No, it cannot be. He said what he says, he got his 7. It's going to happen. But go
Yeah, if
ahead.
he has his 7,
Oh,
you're
he has his 7.
right. So some of the things that he's interested in doing is a $1 event ticket tax and hotel lodge tax increasing from 2 to 3%. Right. So he's looking for those fees and fines to increase. But some things that already has been introduced via legislation a few weeks ago is a water sewer rate and ordinance increase. So
With all the people who having issues with it, they still want an increase?
yes, they still want to increase it. So my issue really with the increases, so increase happened last budget hearing and it's happening again, right? It's one of the biggest increases that we're going to see. And water has already been impacting people, the cost of it, because beforehand in the city, as I remember when I first started paying water, it was every 3 months.
Right. I remember.
Right? And let's say my bill was $100 every 3 months. When they switched to the monthly, now my bill is $100 every month.
Wow.
So I went from $100 to $300 now in a quarter period in paying for water, right? And people are still confused and trying to understand, like, why did that happen? Where is the money going? And now you want to increase rates, right? So now they're increasing rates. And my whole thing is, okay, let's increase rates. All right, let's have that happen. But what service are we improving for people and how are we making it better for people who who are on a limited income to pay?
Right.
Other cities have like income-based water billing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now you still have water. People can get their home foreclosed for water bill for
Absolutely.
that it can happen, and it has happened in conjunction with other fees and fines combined together.
Yeah. Can I just interrupt right there and just simply share that while many of you have praised and criticized us on the show about various items, one of the things I want to make sure that is very clear. What she's sharing, the proposed budget, it is a clear indication of regentification, number one, because if you can't afford it, get out. That's the attitude. And he has his 7 people who, whether they look like you or not, who's going to vote? Because they want to keep their pockets where it needs to be, and they also want to keep their political status. But they don't understand that is the more you're educated on these moves, the more you have to make sure you hold your city council members accountable. We're going to keep putting their pictures up every time somebody vote for anything. We're going to continue to show it. But when you're making these comments about these things being in the budget, it's disgraceful.
Yeah, I agree. Especially without having income-based water billing. I don't think we should have water shutoffs in our city. I don't think the ability to pay, me being poor or being impoverished should equal I don't have water. We should find other ways to collect delinquent accounts, not cut off someone's water. What happens when you cut off someone's water, the home gets condemned.
Yeah.
Then they have to leave. Where are they going to go? And it's actually better to keep someone housed than to have them unhoused. It's also cost savings. It costs more money to deal with a family unhoused than it is to keep them in a house.
But most oftentimes, the people who are paying for them being unhoused is not the city.
Right.
It's the state.
It's the state, yeah.
So they can care less
Right.
about that. But that's a state issue. But as far as our city is concerned, let's get them all out of here. Let's get the poor out of our way. Let's get them out of our hair. And I think that is the really sad reality.
Yeah, so we have water bill increases. I know there's a property tax increase happening. And then recently he had also announced some capital programs that are happening, some budget ordinance. And what's the most interesting is the ordinance to increase existing fees and fines. So if you look at business license fees, I can't even think of the rest of them, but if you look at those type of fees, I have the list here to go over some of the fees that will be increasing, but it's kind of predatory in my stance, because some of the fees are going up $500.
Yeah.
A whole $500 based on what? And based on improving what service. So I don't say I'm going to increase my fee and fine for you to be here without improving a service.
Right.
Like, as a government, the whole point of fees and fines is to provide a service to the community, not to make money off of them. Right? So I have no issue with the increase in fees and fines. Is what service are we providing to make it better, not what am I doing to make more money off of you.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
weird because these policies seem very, very Republican. Even though we have a Democratic mayor in the city, it feels so Republican.
Democratic?
Well,
no, he's Republican. You know, he had a party
Hey,
and changed his
I know who got him
party.
elected, but he's supposed to be Democrat.
Okay, well, let's be very clear. He's not a Democrat. He just switched his party to say he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat on paper.
Oh.
But in reality, he was a Republican. He had his Republican parties to have Republicans switch over to Democrats so that he can win his election.
Yeah,
So
well, why
that's
don't y'all
very
please pay
clear.
attention to that and stop really trying to criticize the truth? You know, at the end of the day, I'm watching what he's doing, and he knows I'm watching, and his group and the folks that are around him are knowing, but I'm not going to give up regardless. But go ahead,
Right.
finish what you
Yeah,
said.
and one of the things that's even looking at some of these increases, some of the people are going to be mostly impacted are mom and pop stores, the
Right,
hair
that's what I
salons, the
thought.
barbershops. Like
Yeah.
those people, their fees are going from $181 to $300.
Wow.
Right. You have another one that was $723 is now $12,000. So you have these big jumps happening, and what's even more concerning is that there's one about rental dwelling units. So if you are a landlord or a property owner, you paid $50 for your unit per unit, or whatnot. If it was 3 or more, you paid $120. So that was like the price, right? Now they're saying $100 per unit.
That's double.
Yep, they're doubling it, right? And then they're saying we're going to cap it at $10,000. Who can pay? Who are they capping? Who are they giving an incentive to when you
Right,
something
right.
at $10,000? You're giving an incentive to the BPNGs, the
Right.
big developers, the ones who manage these other properties, these
Pacini.
luxury
Yeah.
homes that they're building, apartment homes with 100, 200, which could provide more. We're looking for more income from the city. Why will we cap it at $10,000, knowing the people who are capped can pay that?
A Democrat who's running a Republican agenda. That's why. That's your answer.
Like, so for me, we need to if we're going to increase, get rid of the cap. And if we're going to keep it at $100 per unit, it should be for everybody. Mom
Absolutely.
and pop, the big developers, and then at that, we need to find ways to improve services.
Right.
You know how many landlords are complaining that L&I don't do pre-rental inspections, don't come out, the communication is off. Like, how are we trying to hold landlords accountable when we know and have it together in our own backyard to provide services to people, right? So we have to figure out how to do more education, more resources, more incentives, holding our L&I department accountable to doing inspections. The very simple thing of inspections could change the whole landscape of housing for the city of Wilmington if we were doing them consistently.
Gotcha. We're going to have to take a commercial break, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. Real quickly, not real quickly, Kobe, let's talk about what's going on with Kobe's Corner this week.
Yeah, so first HB1 and HB2 passed.
Okay.
Now, you may say, what is that? That is legalizing marijuana here in Delaware, right? So one, not only did it pass the House with overwhelming bipartisan support, it also passed the Senate with overwhelming bipartisan support. I think only like 2 people voted against it, right? So again, this sets up the state for opportunity to start selling legal weed, but also this changes the charges on it as well too. Now that it's legalized for recreational use, right? But it does a few things. So the bill will allow up to 30 retail licenses to be distributed within 16 months of the legislation going into effect. The bill also creates a marijuana control enforcement fee of 15%, and 7% of the marijuana tax revenue will go to a justice reinvestment fund. This is for communities that have been hit the hardest by these predatory laws, right? We saw that consumption of weed has been at the same level for whites and blacks, but we saw overwhelmingly it was African Americans and brown people were being prosecuted for simple weed charges. This also, which all that money will be controlled by the Criminal Justice Council, who does a lot for the community already. This would create grants and services that focus on restorative justice and reducing the state's prison population as well too. So I think this is really good. It's projected that Delaware lost anywhere between 100 million to 200 million in tax revenue because we did not pass this simply last go round. So this creates an opportunity to bring more revenue in here, especially now that COVID and ARPA money is gone. The budget's going to get a lot more sticky.
So I agree, and I don't want to put it on the legalized piece. I don't want to put it on the criminal part, because I agree with that. We have been over attacked in the criminal side, but I want to go back to the recreational side, if you don't mind. So that means I can be sitting somewhere, and now as the pastor of these Iron Affairs, somebody can just sit and have a blunt and chill.
You have your own rules. This is a private institute.
Right, no smoking is allowed on our campus.
Right.
However, if I'm at a place where smoking is allowed, they can just smoke weed.
Yes.
So parents who want to come weed it up, I can't even report them no more, right?
So it's just like with alcohol, right? It's within the safety of the child, right? So the child is now being affected, and their health is being affected. You still
I
have
can't turn my nose up if possible. Now, back in the day in the church, if a person came here and smelled like cigarettes, we were like, oh my God, they whirly. So now they can come and smell like weed. All we can say is they whirly, but they legal. Oh, wow. I'm trying to wrap my head around this, but I'm going to leave it alone.
So again, it's personal use quantity.
I'm very uncomfortable.
It legalized the personal use quantity, right? Yeah. That's not having a lot on you, right?
You don't need a lot.
And it's different varieties of cannabis is legal that they believe is healthy, and then again, it's for individuals 21 and older.
Yeah, and you were smiling too much. Get yourself together. I mean, she even got it on her little screen there. And I can't even see that well. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chloe.
No, so again, I just think this is a great opportunity for to use some of that money to reinvest in communities and open up more opportunities for areas that have been impacted a lot, like the area I live in. Now, I have never consumed marijuana, any weed, cannabis, any of it, right? But I do believe, and I do know a lot of people who do. I have a lot of family members who do, who have been arrested because of this. And I think that this is a great step in the right direction of righting a wrong that we've seen here in this country.
So the East Iron Fair Better Church can do a grant for weeds.
I mean, if you're helping individuals who've been
I have to get a license.
who've been impacted, yes, you
and
can.
I can make good money.
It's actually a lot of benefits to smoking marijuana.
Go ahead. You're right, but I can tell you one benefit that's not a benefit, and that is how it can turn a man sterile. I can talk about a whole lot of areas where it really is a deterrent and is a devastation. Because while you can talk about your benefits, I can talk about the things that not benefit. But I'm biased. I am not for it. But go ahead, y'all.
I know. Jay was here. If Jay was here, he would be completely against it. I remember that debate last go round. But again, now it's on the governor's desk, and it's up to the governor if he wants to veto it again.
They have the vote, but they can overturn
right.
the veto.
This time it was a veto-proof majority that passed it. Next, I want to talk about the governor's new initiative to try to create diversity and more interest in some of our boards and commissions.
Okay.
We have over 300 boards and commissions that they affect all public policy, honestly. They make all different types of recommendations, task force, commissions, they review things, dental, all this stuff, right? So they are encouraging and trying to make it more accessible for individuals who want to sign up to lend their services to the state. Now, some of these boards and commissions, they're paid, right? From everything from the Board of Trustees of Del State and UD, all the way down to just a commission on policing or something like that. So they have launched a new website where you can apply for service. And again, you can fill out the application at any time, regardless of whether it's a current or upcoming vacancy. They will keep a tally of who's interested when those vacancies come up, if you are interested in that.
Good.
And then the last thing I have on my agenda is the Delaware Earns event that's coming up with State Treasurer Colleen Davis. Delaware Earns, again, was a program that's kind of was born out of the Pace of Progress report that the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League did a few years under the direction of then CEO and President Eugene Young. And again, it talked about the economic gap here in Delaware and what we can start doing to prepare individuals to start addressing that, right? So what Delaware Earns is a state-run, state-operated retirement opportunity for employers to buy into for their employees. Currently, right now, about 147,000 Delawareans do not have any access to a retirement savings. This plan looks to address that with it going up to about 250,000 by 2030. So we have a lot of work to do. This program is just launching. It's going to be launched with a town hall to explain more to business owners and to employees as well too. And that's going to start on April the 11th at the POW at 5 p.m. It's 5 to 7. Come on out, hear about the program, and then be able to take some information back. Some of our partners are going to be there. Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League, NAACP, the POW, AARP, and some of our other partners will all be in attendance to answer questions and help guide you through that process as well too.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, is there anything else on your agenda, Brother Kobe?
The only other thing is, I guess I'll talk about SB 1, which is the right to representation bill. I didn't have it on my agenda, but that also passed on Wednesday. And what that does, it creates an opportunity for you to be represented, whether it's by legal counsel or a qualified tenant advocate in court when going through the eviction process. Now, it passed through the Senate, overwhelmingly bipartisan support. It was 19 to 1 to 1, with 1 no, 1 absent. So this is a huge step. We worked very hard. It's not everything we wanted as advocates, but we worked very hard. We got the landlords on board with it. And now it goes over to the House side of it, the General Assembly. Hopefully, we're waiting to hear back from a few of the representatives, including one that represents Wilmington and the Route 9 corridor, if they're going to support it or not. We already created a carve out for small landlords. So if you own 3 or less properties and you go to court without any representation, then your tenants would not qualify for this program. But if you have someone representing you, then they will qualify for this. And this was kind of the negotiation that we had with the landlord, right? So it's balanced, right? There are individuals who want to see that number rise because of their own personal, so that they fit into this as well too, which I think is really sad to see. But again, it's going to come down to we have the votes, we just need to get it out of committee, and one of those people who are holding it up is the committee chair of the Joint Finance, Bill Carson.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're just going to just share with you what happened with Disney's board.
Yes.
And I want to equate it to the mayor of the city of Wilmington. I do want to send a quick shout out and thank you to a state representative who I have been very critical of, and that is Nnamdi. I happened to get an email, and I saw the communication that he's now establishing with the community. It's important to me that, look, Shanae, you ran against him. Obviously, it woke him up. I'm grateful.
I hope he does like that.
Yeah, well, he did, based on his communication with that email I received, and based on the votes recently. We're not here to hate.
agree.
We're here to support. So we'll say to you, I never can say his last name right, but I just say the first name, Namde. I hope you stay on this trajectory, and I think that communication.
Run against them
I don't want you to run against him again,
too.
but you did, and I think it did show him that he can be beaten.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you've done. So I don't want to do a backhand slap and like giving you a compliment and then slap you. But in this case, I say hats off to you. Stay on this trajectory, and you'll get nothing but support and love from me. We'll be right back. And I had to say it. And we're back. Well, real quickly, there was something that happened this week that I was so impressed with. God always found a way to show me that the mighty can be brought down, even though strategically there are people doing different things. What Disney did was just outright great. I mean, outright great. And you may be saying, well, what did they do? DeSantis, who's the governor of the state of Florida, decided we're gonna take control of Disney. All these years, Disney have done certain things and have been able to continue to their success without his help. But he decided, because he wants to make sure woke is dead, and he wants to make sure that black folks and colored folks do what they need to do, be submissive. He decided, I'm gonna get a board in there, and they're gonna take control. And he succeeded. He has succeeded in appointing a board that would have majority. Whatever he wanted would happen. But what DeSantis forgot, and I got to be honest with everybody who's watching, especially Mr. Mayor and your administration, the folks who are there with you in the office, constantly plotting against people who are trying to do something to help a community. What they forgot, Brother Kobe and Sister Shanae, is that other people got minds too. And Disney decided to depower, I don't know if that's a word, the board right before the takeover, so that nothing that the board does matters.
So just a little background on it. There was already a board established.
Yes.
And DeSantis didn't like him, so he went to the courts, went to the General Assembly. They said, all right, we're going to change things around. You have the power to appoint these people as governor. So Disney and the current board knew that was going to happen. So they made an agreement. And in this document, a long provision, right? One of the provisions in it states that everything that they just mentioned in this long document will stand until 21 years after the death of the last survivor of the descendants of King Charles III, King of England, living as of the date of this declaration, right? So the youngest descendant would have to die, and all the rest have to die first too. And 21 years after the last one, that's when they could start changing these laws, right? And it's called a royal clause. These have been used in contracts when things like this happens all the time. It's nothing new. The reason why the British royal family was chosen is because they relatively have better access to health care, and a longer life expectancy than a non-royal person and family line. But then also the family tree is readily available to everyone, right? You can easily trace back hundreds of years the royal family tree. So that's why they use this. It is completely upsetting. DeSantis, they're going to try to take him to court, him and his new 5 appointed board members of the Reedy Creek District, to try to go after Disney. Now, this all stems from DeSantis and them passing the Don't Say Gay legislation, and then also his attacks on the quote-unquote woke agenda, which is just black people. And Disney are saying, no, absolutely not. We're not going along with this. We were here long before you. We'll be here long after you. See us in court. And they have the lawyers to do that.
Yeah. And so what can DeSantis do now?
I mean, honestly, regardless of the royal clause, they could be in court for the next 30 years before they get a decision. And Disney executives pretty much came out and said, we can allocate as much money as possible that we need for this to make sure. But this also, a part of this provision part of this agreement, Disney still has control to pretty much develop land at will, right?
Yeah.
At their will, to continue to grow Disney, and this is what DeSantis is trying to change.
Two can do it, and two can play this game. I brought that up about what Disney did to say to so many of you who've been asking me, what's going on with that senior facility that you were building in South Bridge? It is true, the mayor, his zoning board, he has a board that he appoints himself, and I'm sure they've had their conversation, and there was no reason for them to decline it. Everything they asked us to do, we did it. We provided them with the parking, we provided them with the need, we provided them with the analysis, and a 2-to-1 vote was to decline it. The black brother is the one who decided to vote, the chair and he. And hey, Hanifa, she got certain people to make sure they make some noise, but we had enough signatures in this community to show that they are supporting Zion Fair. Not even the Civic Association supported Hanifa in her mess. But Hanifa's with that board that she has where she can collect money and gain money and get money and act like she's doing so much, but when she was the city council president, didn't do a thing for South Bridge at all. So she got a couple of her friends to speak out and make sure. And I'm a little upset with Frank Cook too, because he got on a call trying to act because his family lived next door to one of the properties. At first he was with it, and then all of a sudden he decided to not be a part of it. And you may say, well, Pastor Curry, what are you going to do now? I have our plan, and it's being done. We will build what we need to build in order for my seniors to be protected. And when I say my seniors, I'm not talking about Zion Fair Baptist Church. There are over 1,500 seniors in this city who are waiting for senior housing. I wanted to do a model by doing a few over here and continue to build them. And I'm going to still do it. But because of the hatred of this mayor, that's why he has to go. And his camp, because he got people in there who got, and I hope that whoever become the new mayor get rid of everything that's up there. He decided we're going to stop him, and we're going to show him, and we're going to see how he act now. He'll settle down. He'll knuckle under, not living. I'm too smart. I'm too educated to allow myself to be bought or bossed by anybody, especially a white man who has an agenda that is very Republican. I'm not happy, but guess what? We got another plan. And the plan is being worked now. And when we finish, I can't talk about it because if I talk about it, they'll start planning. I just want you to know, those of you there, they won the round. The mayor and Hanifa, they won the round. The zoning board rejected. And even the land bank start getting involved in this. And I'm going to deal with that at another time. It's all right. For those of you, anybody who know Pastor Curry know, he gets it done. So what I'm going to ask is that the mayor, you can continue to do what you do, but we only got about 18 more months. How many more months for the next election?
About that, yeah.
I'm going to do everything in my power, and and the first thing I'm going to do in my power is pray. And I hope Hanifa runs for nothing but for retirement. Because whenever you try to harm God's people and God's things, you really enter into dangerous grounds. So while you think I got egg on my face? I really don't. Watch and see how God is going to move. But I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that someone takes over the mayor's office. And I'm also going to work hard for city council too. I'm going to be in this battle. I'm not going to be so much in the front line that much, but I'm not running for anything, but I'm going to definitely, if people run for city council who are for the community, I'm going to support them even if we didn't like each other as people. Because it's about the people as opposed to personalities. And right now, there's no representation in City Hall for us. Regentrification is going on. It's happening all around us. Look at, who cares about the poor? We're going to keep taxing them until they can't live here anymore. But yet, for those of you who are city council people, especially in this district, and I love Councilwoman Harley, but you better pay attention because this district is becoming white. This little South Bridge and little side of East Side that you got, that's a small minority to these large luxury apartments that they're building up downtown and over there at the riverfront. We have to pay attention. This community will not have a voice if we don't start paying attention to what we're doing. I'm going to leave it there, and I never like bring other people into my situation, but I want to make sure that you know who are watching us, we will still do what we need to do, and we're going to do it within the confines, and we also understand patience. It may take us a little bit longer because we got to deal with the shenanigans of a person who is outright racist and outright, in my opinion, outright Republican. We need democratic people who understand and love people and want to support people. That's all I have for today, y'all. I'm sorry that I go on, but I'm going to go on these. I'm not even on a tangent. I just feel good about saying you won the battle, but the war is yet to be conquered. Anything else for you today?
I have nothing else to add.
You have anything else today?
Nothing today.
Well, look, it's been a good show. Y'all missed me last week, and I had a good time. Matter of fact, I was in Canada, but I was there while Joe showed up, and while I was over there, and we had a ball. My wife celebrated her birthday, and it was just outright outstanding. My daughter said, "Can we move here?" And I said, "Absolutely not. No place like America. I don't care how the area we were in was beautiful, but I love America, and that's why I fight so hard for it." Until the next time, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Danae Darby.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.
Talk soon.